Hi, my name is Upasna Dash, and I'm here to tell you how you can use the power of storytelling to truly change your life. Each one of us has a unique story. From the day we were born to this very day, your story has been evolving, and each story is absolutely unique, just like a fingerprint. You must have so far enjoyed stories, shared them, but have you ever thought who you are as a story and how does it really matter? Can it really change your life or cause positive impact in the world? Well, I'm here to tell you it absolutely can. And let me begin by telling you my story. I was born into a loving home in a small town called Ranchi. I actually grew up just speaking my mother tongue, and I was really struggling to speak Hindi and English. I enrolled into school and I was really bullied because I just couldn't wrap my head around learning the new language. My parents tried everything. They tutored me, they spoke to me, they tried different exercises, but it wasn't working. And I was really falling behind in class. And more importantly, I felt very disconnected from other kids because I just could not express myself well enough. And it really bothered me. I actually then moved to Pune, and the struggles became even worse. I was truly like lagging behind in class, and I just could not understand how to make language work for me, how to communicate in English and Hindi. And at that point, my grandfather actually gifted me my first storybook, and it happened to be Pretty Women. I obviously struggled to understand what the book was about by looking at the cover, but I did see this lovely image of these four women looking into the distance, and it just caught my eye. Because I was struggling to speak English, my grandfather actually started to read it out to me with lots of subtitles, but I was just hooked. As a young child in Pune, I was suddenly transported to this different world, a world of these, American women in a bygone era, and it was magical. I was amazed that I could really be sitting in a town in India and be transported into another age just by the power of words. And that really changed my life. And that's actually what got me to learn the language because I was so hooked on to understanding and reading these stories. I actually used it to teach myself English and then Hindi. And till date, they happen to be my favorite getaway. Imagine just opening a book right now and being transported to any part in the world. It's magical, and that's what led me to believe that there is so much more to storytelling than possibly meets the eye. And that belief is what really shaped my life and my career. From being a Vernie kid, yes, that's what I was called back in school, to working with some of the largest brands in the world and shaping their stories, I think I've come a long way, and all thanks to storytelling. My personal journey has not been easy, but it's also been incredible. After studying, after finally getting the grasp of English and choosing my path, I actually decided to become an entrepreneur a couple of years ago after being a PR professional. It wasn't easy. Nobody in my family had really done business. I had absolutely no idea how to do it. I had 5,000 rupees in my account and I was very determined to do this independently. I had a couch for an office and a really kind colleague who quit her job to work with me. And I had nothing but the power of storytelling with me to compete with some of the largest agencies and professionals in the world to truly break into this ecosystem of public relations and storytelling. And you know what I did? A couple of years ago, what started as a crazy idea on my couch has now resulted in my company where we work with corporates, brands, startups, VCs, sports people, film stars from across the world and craft their stories and connect them to customers or help them in achieving their business challenge. And when I look back, I realized I think the three things that really helped me was I truly believed in the power of stories. I understood that stories can create impact. I figured out how to distribute them. And I always strive to use it for the good, to see how can this story make a positive impact in someone's life. So, are you now ready to understand how can you use the power of storytelling to change your life? Well, here's how. So, sit back and think about your favorite character in a story growing up. Mine was Harry Potter. Until date, I root for Harry Potter. I remember the halls of Hogwarts. And I remember despising Voldemort. You possibly remember it too, or you remember your favorite cartoon character. You remember how you felt when one of your characters was doing well or not doing well, how Shikari Shambhu made somebody laugh, and so on and so forth. Yet, you do not remember that exam that you crammed for just a couple of weeks ago, that really important email, a thesis that you wrote. Yet, all these years later, just like me, you probably remember your favorite fairy tale. What happened when Cinderella lost her shoe? Why is that? That is because stories have this incredible power of evoking emotion in you. They know how to make you feel. And guys, that feeling stays. Statistics, facts, words may disappear and evolve, but you are not going to forget the feeling that a powerful story evokes in you. And that is the foundation of great storytelling. So, before you move forward into getting into how you can truly craft your story, the first thing you need to do is ask yourself, what area of your life do you truly want to see change in? Is it your job? Maybe you want a better job. Is it a career change? Is it just deepening your relationship with friends or family? Or is it a milestone? Maybe you want to be a fantastic athlete or a painter. Figure out the area of your life that you want to cause impact in, and then apply the powerful rules of storytelling to truly cause great change in it. So, are you ready to hear what are these incredible rules to create a great story? Well, here goes. The first rule is always start with the why. Why should somebody care about your story? Why should they listen to you? What difference does it make in their lives? The most famous example of this is actually the way Apple communicates. Early on, a couple of decades ago, when Apple started, they had a fantastic campaign called Think Different. It didn't really sell PCs and specs. It sold the idea of why that brand exists. It existed to cater to people who were different than status quo. And that is why it became so successful. Until date, they focus on the why, they focus on the feeling, and they are one of the most powerful brands on earth. So always, always ask yourself, why is my story important to the listener? And start with the why. So for example, if you're applying for a job, the first thing you need to tell the person is possibly the reason why they should hire you, not because of your skill set, but because of the diversity you can get for them. You can actually say, hey, I'm going to tell you about how you can truly bring a diverse and young millennial workforce into your organization and make it 10x better. Start with the why. Second, understand your audience. Put yourself in their shoes. If you're looking for, say, buy-in from your parents to do a radical career change, don't look at them as just parents. Look at them as people who were possibly kids a couple of decades ago, what their issues and challenges were, what inspired them, what scared them, and understand how they would react to your story. Also, try to understand what is their most comfortable mode of communication. Are they somebody who love having long conversations? Then have an in-depth conversation. Are they visual? Then actually give them a presentation. Do they love music? Maybe sing a song. Connect your story to the audience and find a distribution platform that works best for them. For example, most of these new age publications and new age brands are now on popular social media sites because they understand that their audience is on Instagram and Snapchat, and all the stories are catered to that platform. Third, so important, focus on feelings. Focus on how you want the listener to feel. Do you want him to feel inspired? Do you want him to feel hopeful? Do you want him or her to feel joyful? Take that emotion, embody it, and it'll automatically get translated into your storytelling. Then make it super relatable. There are lots of people who think it's really cool to use very, very fancy language and show off their skills. That usually doesn't work. The best stories are those that are passed along easily and seamlessly, and you should absolutely make your story relatable. Make it something that a person listening to can easily be connected with. Then connected to the last point, make it easy for a 7-year-old to recount. It should be that easy. The best stories are simple stories because that's what travels, that's what remains, and ensure that your story does not dilute the feeling. It's not about fancy words and layering with great sentences or showcasing fancy images. It's about the simplicity and the emotion that you're trying to evoke. Couple of interesting tips. People don't really remember stats and facts, like we said. You don't remember what you did in your last maths exam, right? But people remember how you made them feel. So focus on that. Another interesting one, locations are actually a very powerful way to evoke emotion and memory. There was a study that showed, people who were around the World Trade Center when the unfortunate incident happened, till date, including some of my friends and family, very clearly remember the exact location that they were in. They remember the color of the tiles of their coffee shop. They remember the window pane looked like, yet they don't remember what they read on the news or what emails they got. And if you look back at your life right now, think of these really big moments that you remember till date. You will remember that location. Maybe something incredible happened in your grandma's backyard. You'll remember what the tree looked like. Maybe you'll remember how you aced something in school. You'll remember what your classroom looked like. So try to introduce an element of location. It has a very interesting magical impact on listeners. Most importantly, be authentic. People can spot fakes far better than you think, and also people relate more to authenticity than anything else. Let storytelling be a natural extension of who you are. If you're an extrovert, go ahead and do some powerful oration and verbal storytelling. Maybe you're an introvert who's actually really visual, so express yourself with art. Maybe you're somebody who's fantastic with music, so probably sing a song. But let it be an absolute extension of who you are, and do not dilute that to fit into any mold that anybody thinks is right for you. There's no such thing. You can be the ripest peach in the world, and there's somebody who won't like peaches, so just be yourself. Now that you've understood the golden rules of storytelling, here's a quick format into how you can actually start creating your stories from today. The first part, the first 30 seconds of your story are very, very important. That's the amount of time you possibly have to truly capture someone's attention. So use this thing called a zipper test. The same amount of time that it takes for you to zip your bag is the same amount of time in which you should be able to crisply narrate your story and what it's going to do for the viewer right up front. Second, like we said, start with the why. In about a line or two, tell the listener why the story is going to be positively impacting their life. Third, talk about a possible need in the listener's life that is missing right now. For example, up until a couple of years ago when Uber wasn't there, did you know you really needed Uber? We went along just fine. But it's said that before Uber entered markets, they really truly got people to think about the need for a private cab hailing service. And once you started putting that need in the customer's market, by the time the product entered the market, people were already ready to lap it up. Similarly, create a need in the listener's life for your story and the message that it has. Then fill it with a gap. For example, if you're looking for that internship, talk about how that workforce actually needs a young person in college right now because it's going to give them a refreshing perspective. Then talk about how you could be that candidate. Then introduce a simple human incident showcasing some part of your personality that you think has a positive impact on story. For example, again, if you're trying to showcase that you're hardworking or great with deadlines, don't just say, hey, I'm hardworking and great with deadlines. Actually talk to them about a human incident where you emitted those exact values. That's going to make all the difference in the world. So, for example, if you're trying to say that you're great with timelines, talk about how you juggled multiple exam deadlines and something at home and a commitment with your friends and got through to all of them, and make it human. It's going to make a huge difference. Like most stories, humans love rooting for people. So start with possibly a low point in your story. If you think back at all the best stories you've heard or movies that you've seen, it usually has a great character that gets established, who then goes through a low point, who then emerges victorious. And you're having an emotional evolution with that character, and that's why that character sticks with you. Use that. Talk about authentically a low point in your life and what struggles you went through, wherever relevant, and then talk about how that low point transformed into a high point. And last, most importantly, end with a call to action. A call to action is what is the action that you want your listener to do? Do you want them to connect you to a colleague? Do you want them to recommend you? Do you want them to give you advice? End your story powerfully with a very explicit call to action. Otherwise, your story is not really going to drive any input for you. And now, once you've figured out the art of storytelling, the power of storytelling, come back and ask yourself who you are as a brand. You always have these special brands that have a special place in your life, right? Why is that? Because there's something about that brand that resonates with you. Similarly, you are your own brand. And how do you figure that out? Go to your closest friends and family and ask them, hey, if I wasn't in the room, what are 3 or 4 things that you would say to describe me? Maybe they'll say honest, hardworking, funny, engaging. These are your brand traits. Live that trait. And that's how you figure out how your brand is. So, with these tools of storytelling, with the belief that storytelling can change your life, and when you figure out what your true brand is and what area of your life you want to apply all of these magical things to, you're truly ready to go out there and unleash the power of storytelling to change your life for good. So here's to each one of you, here's to each one of your wonderful stories, onwards and upwards.